The Auburn Tigers are the number one team in the country. Come on, you knew that already. Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. I'm your host, Mike G, and thank you so much for giving a listen today. We're talking Auburn basketball. We're talking SEC basketball, and joining me, as always, is my good friend Dave Shoemate, college basketball analyst for SEC Unfiltered. Dave, let's jump right into your rankings this week. Ever the adventure are these rankings, and you and I, we talked a lot about this game going in, about what Auburn is or was. And the Tigers came out on top. Now, we'll talk about that game and what Auburn is in the second half, but let's get into the rankings. Auburn remains at number one. I actually went on record in saying that I thought there was a good chance Auburn would lose this game. They never trailed in Tuscaloosa. Absolutely insane stat. Alabama comes in at number two. I took some heat on social media, Dave, for saying that I thought Alabama should be the number one two team come Monday. They were not. We'll talk about that again later. Florida at 3, A&M at 4, Missouri at 5, Tennessee at 6. A little bit of controversy here with Tennessee ranked behind the Missouri Tigers. State, who took down Ole Miss, who is right behind them at 8. I think the Rebels are frauds. Again, we'll talk about that. Vandy at 9, Kentucky at 10, Arkansas at 11, Texas at 12, and rounding out the last 4, Georgia, LSU, Oklahoma, South Carolina. Dave Shoemate, it has been said that this might be the best single year of a basketball conference in the last 35 years. The 2024-2025 SEC. What say you, sir, looking at your own rankings? How good is this conference?
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. Me and you were talking about 9 teams ranked in the top 25. You sit here, me and you were off air talking about Ole Miss a little bit. Kind of, God, yeah, are they frauds? You just don't listen to like, you see how they played against Kentucky that game. I mean, it's a compliment to Auburn. Obviously, we saw that on Saturday. We'll talk about that in a bit. I didn't think Ole Miss played that bad in the game against Auburn. I mean, they probably would have beat a lot of other teams that day. They played, 2 weeks ago in Oxford? 2-3 weeks ago in Oxford. So you see flashes of Ole Miss at times. I like some key pieces. But, you're right. Overall, this league, especially in that top 8 or 9, I feel like sometimes me and you talked about it. I'm not subscribing to the 13 teams from the SEC are getting in. I think at some point that group of 5 right there, I feel like I don't want to say it's overrated because no one ever said it was really good. It's just I feel like once you get to about 9th in the league, maybe 10th if you include Vanderbilt, I think Texas, Georgia, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and then obviously the other teams like the LSU, South Carolina, Oklahoma's of the world. They're average, below average.
They're going to need some help.
What'd you say, Mike?
They're going to need some help to get in, I think.
Right? Correct. To get 13 teams, like people are saying, 4 out of those 5 bubble teams are going to have to make the tournament. I don't see that happening. But I do think the first 8 to 10 teams in this league could go finish in the top 4 in most other leagues.
Yeah.
And I think you got about 3 legitimate national title contenders in the league.
Ooh, 3 legitimate national title contenders. Is that your top 3? Auburn, Alabama, and Florida?
Yeah, I would think so. And I think A&M, if they get the right draw, could get to the Final Four. I don't see them winning the national title. And I think, Mike, like me and you talked about this before, there's a difference between hey, I can go win 4 games and get to the Final Four and actually go, hey, let me go win 2 and there's that national semifinal and then obviously the game on Monday night, the championship. That's a whole nother beast in itself. To actually go win the whole thing, I think there's about 3 teams. Obviously, Auburn speaks for themselves. And I think, like you mentioned, Alabama and Auburn would be the other 2. Alabama and Florida would be the 2 other teams I think that could win it all as well.
Yeah, behind them, Texas A&M, Missouri, Tennessee. Again, Tennessee fans may be taking umbrage with the fact that you've got them ranked behind a team they beat. But you feel like Missouri's the better team right now.
I mean, Mike, we've talked about it before. I come in here kind of with I'm a big eyeball test. Again, you can look at the numbers and stuff like that. Yeah, they have the head-to-head. It was in Knoxville, though, a game Missouri blew a total double-digit lead in the second half of this game. I'm looking at it from a neutral site standpoint. Again, I didn't think Tennessee their comeback against Vanderbilt was impressive, but Vanderbilt at one point was up 15 in that game, and it's kind of like, man, if they're playing this anywhere else, they probably lose this game. I've been vocal in any show, any time on my own show, talking about Tennessee this year. Look, I appreciate the consistency of I know what I'm getting every night defensively from an effort standpoint. I think Rick Barnes, one of the more underappreciated coaches in the league. Tennessee fan. I mean, this year he may not do it, but the guy usually either wins the league or finishes in the top 4 of the league. I don't think they will this year. Just this year, Mike, I just do not like the offense at all. When Zakai Ziegler and Chaz Lanier have to be your 2 just bucket getters for you, I don't think that subscribes well to winning deep in March, especially when you get to that second weekend, you're playing other good teams who are playing other good basketball. I mean, I just don't say, again, they kind of drug Auburn down in the mud a little bit, but Auburn can win in multiple ways. I think that's just Tennessee's style. And if you can go play in the mud with them a little bit, come out, I think you can win. But I don't know. I think the offense is going to get Tennessee in trouble again, and that's usually the conversation every year. But I think the difference was, as we all know, last year, and it's why they won the regular season and made it to the Elite Eight. They had a bucket getter when they needed to go get it. We've seen what he's done in Los Angeles this year in Dalton Connect.
Dave Shoemate, my good friend, my buddy, let's have a conversation about the state of Mississippi. I am tired of Ole Miss at everything. I'm tired of them at football. I'm tired of them at basketball. I'm tired of them at badminton. I am tired of Ole Miss. They are consistently frauds. This team is fraudulent. They're going to make the tournament, but I think that if I had to rate teams most likely to embarrass the SEC in the big dance, I'm ranking Ole Miss at the top. I just don't think I think they're frauds, man. And you got exposed again by Mississippi State this weekend in a game that you lost at home by 10. Come on, man. You got outscored in both halves. Mississippi State closed the first half with a 7-point lead. They ended the game with a 10-point lead. Come on, man. I know that this is a great league, and I don't want to take anything away from the greatness of the league this year, but certainly I think Ole Miss is a flawed team. And look, man, I don't have an issue with their ranking, so to speak. I think the AP has them ranked at 24, just inside the top 25, dropping 5 spots after the loss to Mississippi State. Mississippi State only rose 1 spot after beating them, which I think underscores how fraudulent they are.
Yeah, no, I mean, Ole Miss here. I love what Chris Beard does. I think if something like Rick Barnes were retired at the end of the year, I think Tennessee would be smart to go find interest in Rick Barnes and Chris Beard. I think he was close to becoming the head guy at Arkansas. I trust him. I probably like Ole Miss. Again, I don't even know if I like Ole Miss. I probably like him a little bit more than you do. It sounds like you're totally off of him. And I understand why. I don't disagree with you. I probably still like him a little bit more. And it's really because of Mark Adams and Chris Beard come March in the NCAA tournament. They've been there. They've won at Arkansas Little Rock, Texas Tech, obviously Texas till all that stuff happened. And I think he's done a solid job at Ole Miss so far. But you're right. Like, Ole Miss is totally going to be matchup dependent in this NCAA tournament this year. I'm with you. It'll probably be anywhere from a 5 to 6 seed in the tournament, I would guess. Maybe 7. Again, we got some conference games left. Maybe they play their way up. Maybe they play their way back down. But to me, with Ole Miss, it has to start and end with Matthew Morrell and Jamin Brakefield. I mean, Sean Padula is consistent, but like Morrell has to be that guy that I feel like he's been on the team since I was in middle school. But he's the guy that he's the best bucket getter they have on that team that can go get it back. It has the highest upside from an NBA standpoint. I think when he's playing well, they're an overall better team. They mix in like Malik Dia and them. They have pretty good players. It's just, I'm with you. Sometimes they disappear offensively. And as we know, I mean, in the tournament, I don't think you can just really ride your way to Ole Miss's probably ceiling is in a Sweet 16 this year, getting past the first weekend, but they're going to have to go play offensively really well. But I thought for Mississippi State, though, it was a phenomenal win. They needed it. I thought they were one of the bigger
wins they needed
it Saturday because they came into that game, I think, losing 3 out of their 4. And I think 3 of those games were at home. And as we know, Mike, outside of losing to maybe like Auburn, Alabama, and Florida at home, like if that's your home game, I think people are okay with that.
Yeah.
But the other teams, you got to take care of business at home this year because the league's just so hard and the road games are just tumultuous.
Yeah, agreed. Look, but there was a historic matchup in Coleman Coliseum on Saturday, Dave, for the first time in conference history. 2 SEC teams faced off as number 1 and number 2 in the country. The Auburn Tigers came out on top. We're going to talk about that game and what it means for the implications over the rest of the season right after a quick word from our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com and use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. If you were watching the game on Saturday and you were stressed the hell out, we could have helped you with that. Visit rogueshop.com. Again, use code REPORT, get 15% off that order. Our guy Richard, longtime sponsor of the show, dropped a little note in for everybody who uses that code REPORT. Also, this segment is brought to you by our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com/WR and use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off your weights and code TWR for $65 off fire pits and Kamado grills. The spring is here, Dave. And if you want to get outside, which I highly recommend, and make some memories with your family over Lifetime products, Golden's Cast Iron has you covered. I got my dad the grill for the Kamado for Father's Day a couple of years ago. And we have the fire pit, which we do our firesides around. Janai Broom, the Peyton Thorne, everybody has come and sat around the fire pit with us, courtesy of Golden's Cast Iron, to make memories and talk Auburn football and basketball. Get your products today. Again, visit goldenscastiron.com/WR and use these codes to make sure you get your discount on your Golden's products for life, what they're making there, and local sponsors. We appreciate them for sponsoring this segment. Dave, let's get back into it. Auburn basketball takes down Alabama in Tuscaloosa on Saturday. It was a game for the ages. I think it wasn't as exciting as we thought it would be. Alabama certainly struggled to shoot the ball, but Auburn had a lot to do with that on Saturday, holding the Tide to 39% from the field. They averaged 48% shooting coming into this game. Initial reaction, man, your thoughts on the game before we start talking about the long-term implications of the outcome?
No, I mean, first, I think you got to give the flowers to Auburn and Bruce Pearl and them. They really flexed their muscles. I think a big part of that game was Auburn's start to the game, got up 9-0. And then I think people forget about it. The last 2 minutes of that half, when Alabama cut it, I think, to 2, Auburn went like a 7-0 run the last 2 minutes of the half to go up 9 at half. And that was kind of it. I didn't think Alabama played that bad from like after getting down 9-0 to the 2 minutes. But I think that was kind of where it's like, man, if you were looking at it from an Alabama perspective, it was like, yeah, these runs, Auburn's going to – Auburn answered the bell anytime Bama either got it to 4-2 or tied it up there in the second half and kind of flexed its muscles as the older, more mature team. I thought Alabama came out a little tight. Auburn didn't look that way. Auburn definitely looked more comfortable in that moment. Like you said, give Auburn credit. They're big, long guards, Denver Jones, Miles Kelly, any of those guys across the board, from a Todd Pettiford, from a guard standpoint. Denver Jones made Mark Sears. I mean, Sears ended up with 18, but if you go look at the attempts and stuff, he struggled on Saturday night. And a lot of that was Denver Jones outplaying him on both sides of the ball, both sides of the court. I mean, on offense and defense. I thought Denver Jones was kind of the X factor. Mike, you know this. Against other top 10 teams going into this game, Denver Jones's point production overall wasn't awesome against other top 10 teams. And I think that was one of my question marks going into the game. I'm like, Denver Jones will probably have to play well for them to go win this game. He certainly answered the bell, just like everybody else did at Auburn. When Auburn had to go, when Bama would flex back and tie it, like I said, cut it to 4, cut it to 2, Auburn went on their own 7-8-0 run and kind of just got comfortable again. Bama would go make their run, get within striking distance. Auburn would shut that down real fast. And so you got to give Auburn and them credit. You got to get, I mean, that's the real difference. I think that really showed. Again, I mean, Auburn's just a totally tough out, especially from, again, Alabama scored in their high 80s, but you look at the efficiency standpoint, it wasn't there. I mean, look, all right, we're going to run through the screens. We're going to make you shoot contested shots off balance. If you do get to the paint, we still got 2 rim protectors there in Cardwell and Janai Broom. So kind of take it. And again, I thought Auburn didn't have a ton of block shots, but you could tell they were affecting Alabama at the rim because Bama missed a bunch of bunnies that I think was affected by them thinking Auburn maybe was coming in from the backside to reject it. And just, I mean, you saw it with Grant Nelson. You saw it with Jaron Stevenson. That down low, I think it was a little too much for them, especially in the front court.
Yeah, look, speaking of answering the bell, there was a sequence in the game starting at 8 minutes and 50 seconds left in the second where Mark Sears makes a 3-point jumper to close the lead to 2 points, 65-63. And then Grant Nelson makes a dunk, and it's 65-65. And you start to get the sense that maybe quote unquote, the tide is turning in Tuscaloosa. And then Tahad Pettiford absolutely ice cold steps into a three to put Auburn up 3. But then Chris Youngblood comes back with a 3, tied at 68-68. And then Chad Baker-Mazar returns the favor, 71-68, making a 3. And then Auburn just never looked back from there. They continued to open up that lead until it got out of hand for Alabama. But look, they never trailed in Tuscaloosa. And I think that is an incredible stat.
Yeah, first time in the NATO era at home.
Yeah, I did not think that Auburn could win a game against Alabama in Tuscaloosa, Dave, where Alabama got close to 90 points. Just didn't think it was going to happen. Now, again, the point total looked good, but you noted that the efficiency wasn't there. Part of the reason is because of free throws. Alabama shot 35 for free throws in this game. They missed 9 of them. And at the end of the game, the free throw disparity looked a little closer because of intentional fouls being committed by Alabama down the stretch to try to extend the game. But it really wasn't that close in terms of how fouls were being called in this one up until the end of the game.
Yeah, and Auburn didn't shoot great either. I'm sure Bruce Pearl would tell you that's something they probably could have improved on from that perspective was the free throw percentage in that game.
Yeah, they missed 10, 22 of 32.
Yeah, both teams weren't awesome from the free throw line. I would say that. And then, I mean, if you told me Alabama, I think a concern there going into that game was Bama turning it over. I mean, they only turned it over. I mean, it wasn't a turnover fest in this game for anyone. Auburn only had 4, if I remember right, with 7, I think 11 combined turnovers. And then Alabama out-rebounded Auburn. So if you would have told me those 2 stats, yeah, I mean, if you just told me into the game, Alabama out-rebounds Auburn, keeps it to single-digit turnovers, you're like, at home, yeah, you would feel pretty good. But Auburn shoots 40% from beyond the arc. But I think that's just kind of a testament to Auburn's offense.
Yeah.
They're very tough to defend. I mean, it truly is the definition of kind of pick your poison. Like, it's kind of like, do you want to throw 2 bodies at Janiyah? Well, we got 3 guys who shoot 40% from 3. That's fine if you want to do that. Like, or you let Janiyah go one-on-one with somebody. He's a walking double-double. He's probably going to get his as well. I mean, offensively there, I mean, your biggest concern with Auburn would probably be, I mean, you tell me, Mike, going down the stretch from an NCAA tournament, and again, 1 game, single elimination, anything can happen to anybody. We've seen it every year in this tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, what would be your concern for Auburn? I'm asking you, what would be your concern for Auburn?
My concern is, again, you held them to 39% shooting, or so 38.6 to be exact, and they still put up 85 points. And if you're not absolutely on in that game, you may lose. I mean, there were opportunities here for you to lose. Now, you got a lot of big shot makers. I think it's time to put to bed the narrative that this team is not that talented. Auburn is extremely talented, and I think they showed it on Saturday. I think you beat them with experience and talent, a good combination of the two. But my concern, as always, is it's going to sound pretty generic. It's turnovers and it's free throw shooting, right? Like,
I was about to say free throw shooting would be a concern in a
yeah.
close game.
Not a whole lot of holes to look at when Auburn is on. When you look back at that Florida game, look, they just had a bad game. And I think how they responded after proves it. But if you stack that game versus everybody else's losses, whose loss was better than Auburn's loss to Florida? Right now,
Alabama's to Auburn.
Yeah, right.
It'll probably be the only other one.
Yeah, I'm just like, come on, man. Like, who has a better loss on their schedule than one that Auburn did? Well, again, they scored in the 80s and they didn't play that well. So,
and again, I think we talked about it last week. Like, Florida was really desperate, I think, coming in that because again, they were embarrassed against Tennessee the week before. Everybody was kind of picking Auburn in that game to beat Florida. And I mean, even Bruce Pearl said, he's like, I probably underestimated not telling my team like how desperate they were going to try to come in here and get this win. Because we talked about Alabama, Auburn. Again, I think Auburn's obviously still going to win the SEC. Florida was a big winner on Saturday. They got another loss from Alabama. Technically, what are they right now? 2 games back from Auburn? Yeah, they're 2 games back. They need Auburn to lose 2 more games. They do have the tiebreaker over Auburn. I don't think Florida wins out, though. But from a standing standpoint, because I was one kind of putting Florida out early to not win the SEC. But, again, I mean, I don't know down the stretch. Yeah, Florida's got it. Florida's got a shot, but it's Auburn's to lose right now. I mean, they're in the driver's seat, and you probably got Alabama and Florida sitting there in the back seat in the same car with them. But Auburn, I mean, essentially 2 games up on Alabama now with the tiebreaker.
Yeah, one of the interesting stats from Saturday that I don't think is being talked about enough. neither one of these teams turned the ball over a ton. Single-digit
That's
turnovers.
what I was saying, 11 combined turnovers.
Yeah, 11 combined. I think it was, 7 for
Bama, 4 for Auburn.
Yeah, they took care of the basketball.
It wasn't a sloppy game.
Yeah. It just came down to who did the little things better, and that was Auburn.
Yeah, that was Auburn. No, you're right. Auburn took advantage also of Bama's drop defensive coverage, I thought, well. And again, Bama's going to imply that. It's an NBA system. That's what Nate Oates wants to play. And if you have some guys like Tahad Pettiford that are willing to pull up at about the free throw line, that shot's going to be open every time. Like, what was it, 2 years ago, the Brandon Miller Alabama team, Gonzaga came into Birmingham.
Yeah.
Bama was, I think, had one loss, only to UConn at the time. Dude, Gonzaga, Timmy and them just lived at that little short strange floater and ended up beating them. If you have guys who are willing to take that shot and comfortable doing it, and that's right up Todd Pettiford's lane right there, you can kill them from that perspective. Because again, they just drop the big center, they go over the screen, or they'll read it, they'll go under it too, but they're giving up that mid range. I mean, I think if you ask Nate Oates tomorrow's press conference, he'd be like, yeah, we got to give up something. We've always given that up. But again, sometimes when I watch them, I'm surprised more teams don't take that shot more because it's there.
Yeah, look, just looking at the stat lines, if you're Auburn, you had 6 players in double figures in this one. Lowest output of any player was Todd Pettiford that hit double figures. He had 13 points on 5 of 10 shooting. He only hit 1 3, but it was a big one. It was a big momentum 3 that he hit to keep Auburn ahead. And I just think, at the end of the day, if you're Auburn, now it has truly become championship or bust. This is the best shot you'll probably have this decade to win a championship. You've got every piece you need. You just have to get it done when it matters the most. So if they can stay healthy, Janai Broome tweaked an ankle, it looked like at some point, but he ended up coming back. He finished with 33 minutes, I believe, Dave, in this one. Chaney Johnson has shown up so big game after game over these last few games. He had 33 minutes, scored 14 points on 5 of 10, shooting 2 of 4 from 3. And then Denver Jones, that we mentioned, 16 points on 5 of 9 shooting, just hitting big shots when Auburn needs big shots. 42 points from the bench if you're Auburn. Big. Now, look, 32 points from the bench for Bama there's nothing to slouch at. They got production from their bench. But if you're Auburn, this puts you firmly in the driver's seat. And hear me out on this. I want to end the show on this. I want to get your thoughts on this. I think that the winner of the regular season SEC championship should be the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. I don't care if it's Bama or Florida or Auburn, or even if Tennessee somehow comes back and wins it. I think the winner of this conference this year deserves to sit on that number 1 overall perch, and I don't think it should be a discussion.
No, I agree. I mean, with how difficult the league is, historically good. Yeah, if you win this SEC, hell, let's be honest, that's probably the hardest thing you could do this year. I mean, even in factoring in the NCAA tournament, going through an 18-game slate in this league, 2 times a week, granted outside of 1 week where you get a bye. It's hellacious. It's up there with the SEC baseball slate right now. Again, I remember people at the beginning of the year tweeting football or basketball, and the SEC is more difficult. And it's like, dude, the basketball conference is way better than the football conference right now. If you want to have a real conversation, it'd be about the 2 baseball. It'd be about SEC baseball and SEC basketball. And it's more of a compliment to the basketball program conference, because we used to talk about baseball like that, how, man, every weekend, you're facing a potential team hosting. The SEC now is like 9 teams ranked, going to get potentially 11 or 12 in the NCAA tournament. There's no easy game. Look at Alabama, hardest schedule left in the league now. You lose to Auburn, you better flush that quick, or Missouri will beat you on Wednesday night in Columbia.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of great storylines down the stretch here. Dave Shoemake will be with me every single week until this thing is over, including through the NCAA tournament. Dave, before we get out of here, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, guys, go give me the follow at Dave Shoemake SEC. Go give us the follow at the SEC Unfiltered channel, folks. Trying to get as many subscribers as possible. Hopefully at the end of the year we'll be up to 50, guys. And I know everybody listening here, again, y'all probably see our stuff, but you're not subscribed. Appreciate you guys listening to us. Go hit the like, subscribe. And also, too, there's no better Auburn content than you're already getting here with our guy Mike G and the guys from the War Report. So I appreciate him having me on every week and giving my thoughts to the Auburn family.
That's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. If you want more content like this, please hit like and subscribe. We are the War Report on every social media platform. TW Report on TikTok. We're signing off, and as always, War Eagle.